Hey everyone, we're going to take a quick break and talk about our sponsors for the month, AMP Agency. AMP is a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in tour, rental, and destination marketing.
We would not have sponsors on the show if we could not vouch for them ourselves. AMP Agency does a bunch of stuff for Destiny Water Adventures personally. I 100% vouch for this guy. I've handed them over to other companies in the past before they officially became a sponsor, and they have had nothing but great things to say. If you guys are doing your own marketing and doing a piss poor job of it, do yourselves a favor. Hand yourselves over to AMP Agency, specifically Steve Edwards, their CEO, will call you personally and have a great conversation with you about what you guys need to do for your marketing.
Listen, guys, they do pretty much everything in digital marketing: website development, maintenance, Google AdWords, PPC, graphic design, social media management, SEO, and a myriad of other things. When you choose a marketing company, it's so important to choose a company that knows your industry. And AMP Agency knows activity marketing, especially water sports and tours. They got a promo going for Awkward Watersport Guy listeners for their managed websites. Use promo code Awkward Podcast when you go to amp.agency. Again, that's amp.agency, promo code Awkward Podcast. You get 3 months free and get started with AMP Agency. All right, guys, let's get back to the show.
Based off our conversation, Chris, because anyway, yeah. So I'll go ahead and I'll bring us in and
bring us in. Okay, we're episode 125.
125. Oh my god! All right, guys, myself and Greg are back with episode 125. 125 times we've done this. This is wild, man.
Way to make it dramatic. With the big pauses in between the numbers.
Let's go. Today, guys, we got a special episode. I am pretty stoked. We are here with Chris Batchelor, CEO of Red Hospitality. Chris is a super interesting guy. I had an opportunity to speak with him at length about his story, and I'm really excited. It's difficult. This episode's difficult for me because this is like the only time I'm going to talk because it pisses me off just a little bit because he is so much smarter than I am. Which, I mean, a lot of people are smarter than I am, but I mean in the world of water sports. And I told him that on our conversation, and I was like, man, it's really difficult when you see somebody who's sort of done what you wanted to do. Like I always had this open dream of a private equity water sports. And here's a guy, but he's on the West Coast, which we rarely talk to people from the West Coast. He's got his blonde hair and good looks, and he's smarter than me. It's driving me. Anyway, without further ado, Chris, how the heck you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks so much for having me on the show today. You set the bar very, very high. So, hopefully I can meet everybody's expectations. I think you guys got a lot of stuff going on. Hopefully we can, make it a little bit interesting for everybody.
Man. Chris, I'm not gonna lie, Chris. I shared your photo with my team, and most of my Trip Shock team are women, and I got a lot of gifts and smiley faces. So
I was like, I went under there.
That's great. Yeah.
Some dude
I
looked at your headshot, man, and I was like, this guy should be an actor or something.
It looks like Blue Steel, right? I only turn left. It's it's unbelievable. But maybe we'll do some autograph signings or something like that next time we get together.
Bring that thing in, man. A nice 8x10.
You guys are too kind. From the neck down, it's just absolutely hideous. So
how old are you, Chris?
I'm 38.
Bro, hey, man, don't worry. It gets worse as you get older, buddy.
No, yeah, it's a downward spiral. So I'm just trying to hold it together.
Are you an 85 baby?
86. I'm actually turning 38 in January.
Okay, I'm 85. All right, cool.
There you go.
You guys in your youth, man. I'm telling you what, I'm starting to feel it. After 40, it's like, I'm 45 is coming around the corner for me, man. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm halfway to 50, dude. What the fuck?
Well, you mean you got all like that
That's what
everybody. Yeah, if I could grow facial hair, I would look more older, older and
more distinguished.
more wise than I am, for sure. Yeah, you're very, very
absolutely.
distinguished.
That's how always people refer to me. Well,
let's stick to that. We'll definitely keep on. We'll refer to you as the distinguished gentleman.
So you have a background in, and I want to I would like to get started in before water sports, because you told me some stuff about you ran some. Sure. I feel like you've had you've been an entrepreneur since Jump Street, man. So how did you get into entrepreneurship? What was the first gigs you ran into, man?
Yeah, no problem. Happy to go through my background. Maybe I'll just give you a quick 30 seconds on Red, just to kind of set the table of what we're doing today, and I can tell you about how we got there. So Red Hospitality and Leisure. Red is an acronym. It stands for Resort, Ecotourism, and Destination Services. And Red Hospitality was created about 5 or 6 years ago now, when we had acquired with some other partners a couple water sports companies in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then we had the opportunity to expand that. And we weren't sure exactly how we were going to do that at the time, but we knew we wanted to be more than just a quote unquote water sports company. We knew we wanted to run a business that was a little bit more 360 degrees, providing experiences to guests. Kind of from the time that they arrive in the destination until the time that they leave. And so Red Hospitality and Leisure was created, and I'll walk you through the story of all those things. But Red is the parent company, which is also owned by a larger firm called Ashford Inc. And Ashford Inc. is a publicly traded strategic investor in the hospitality space. So we have 3 publicly traded platforms. One of them is Ashford Inc., which is the external advisor to 2 large real estate hospitality platforms, which own about 100 hotels in the United States and in the Caribbean. And then on the advisory side, we have a portfolio of 5 or 6 different service businesses that provide things like what Red Hospitality does, or audio, video, and those types of things. Red Hospitality and Leisure is the parent company from the experience ecotourism side of things, and I serve as the president and CEO of that organization. Red owns a handful of water sports companies in different places in the world. We have operations in the United States Virgin Islands, Turks and Caicos, Key West, Key Largo, and most recently out in Hawaii, where I was actually from. And so that will kind of help set the stage for where we got to where we are, and maybe we can talk about where we're going, and really excited to share what I can with your listeners. But my background is interesting. I was raised in Hawaii. My family was actually in the water sports business growing up. Kind of probably familiar story to some of the listeners, where dad was delivering a boat in the 70s. Probably running from some bad decisions in the States, was racing sailboats and delivered one to Maui, actually for the Hilton family, a boat called Terragram, which is a famous boat that Barry Hilton owned back in the 60s and 70s. So my dad delivered that to Maui, kind of got there and never left. My mom was in San Francisco, also, I think child of the 60s and 70s, not sure what she wanted to do with her life, went out to Maui on vacation and met my dad there, and they kind of got into the water sports business in the 70s and 80s. And so I grew up in Maui. I grew up in a time where the water sports business, in particular in Hawaii, that's kind of where, from my experience, a lot of the kind of bigger players or more sophisticated water sports operators started to be incubated. And I just had a front row seat to it. I was the kid that was running around, naked on the beach, hosing the boats down and being a little, menace. So fast forward, my family got out of that business in a long story. And I moved to Michigan when I was going into high school, and started just kind of going back and forth.
Are you tired of spending countless hours managing your water sport and boat rental reservations manually? Is your current system outdated or doesn't provide the necessary features that your business requires? Hi, I'm Greg Fisher, the CEO of WaveRes, an online reservation software built by operators for operators. With our system, you can offer 24/7 online booking to your customers, allowing them to book and pay for their rentals at their convenience. You can also send SMS notifications to your customers, keeping them updated on their reservation status and any changes that may occur. Custom options and dynamic pricing enable you to offer tailored packages to your customers, helping you stand out from your competitor. Plus, our system integrates with companies like Werewolf Digital Waivers and TripShock, streamlining your operations and ensuring a seamless booking experience for your customers. Our software is the best choice for water sport and boat tour operators as it is designed to cater specifically to your needs. So why waste any more time on manual reservation management? Try WaveRes today and take your business to the next level. For a limited time, mention this ad and receive a $100 credit when you sign up. Check out waveres.com for more info or to schedule a free demo. Now let's get back to the show.
I was going to ask you about that 810 number, man.
Yeah, Brighton, Michigan.
Yeah, me and Greg are both.
Yeah, so I went from the beach on Maui to the cornfields of Michigan, so to speak, and it was great. That was right at the time when that I don't know if you guys remember, there was this like Disney show called Johnny Tsunami at the time, and I was 15 years old or something like that. This kid flies in from Maui, Hawaii to nowhere. They thought I was like an alien coming from Maui to Michigan, but it was a great time. My family moved there, my dad did, and I started racing sailboats as much as possible. That's my kind of passion project on the side is racing catamarans. So did that for a while. And kind of was thinking about how can I pursue that as a career, and turns out being a professional sailor is one of those live in a van type of adventures, and while it was appealing, I thought I could maybe do something else more productive with my life, and got into the fitness business and started running health clubs. And a very, very long story short, myself and a partner at the time from 2006 or 7 through 2012 created something called Fitness Marketing Group, which grew into a large kind of international consulting company that was providing small business owners in the personal training and health club space, primarily through the recession, with ways to drive memberships into their clubs and kind of reconfigure their personal training businesses in a way that was more effective, and did that for a long time. Wasn't really my passion. Always knew that I wanted to maybe get back to Hawaii. We started working with a number of clients, and decided that I was going to kind of sunset that relationship, move on from that industry. I was fortunate enough to, have a few people that supported me over the years after we had provided some support to their kind of commercial operations. We got involved in capital raising and private equity and some other things through that consultancy. And one day I just kind of walked into my partner's office and said, I don't really want to do this anymore. And, maybe we can find a way to separate up the businesses, and I'm going to try to go back to Hawaii and buy a water sports company and kind of finish what my family started back in the 80s. And that, through a variety of things, kind of led me to where we are today. And now Red is, pretty good sized company. We have about 300 associates globally at the moment. We have, probably 25 or 30 commercially inspected vessels, and another handful of smaller vessels, everything from jet skis to parasailing to large commercial catamarans, beach operations, and try to vertically integrate that. So that's a little bit about, that's me. That's a short version of my background, and I'm happy to dive in whatever you guys want.
So without too personal, so that first acquisition, did you raise capital to buy that?
Yep. So I had a partner of mine. I was doing some consulting work in between the health club space, and one thing that a lot of people ask me, over the years as we have conversations like this, that particular individual was kind of a mentor of mine. He was an investor in some of the other businesses that I was doing some paid consulting work in the event space. actually in a digital advertising variety of things that I was doing kind of ad hoc. And so, he and I started he was going to lunches once a month, just talking about life. And, we established this kind of mentor-mentee relationship. And he asked me, what do I want to do? And I had been successful in kind of growing some of the businesses that he was otherwise invested in. And so, one day I said, this is what I want to do. And he was kind enough to say, what can I do to help? Right. So I put in, scrape the dollars that I had together. He put in, a little bit of money from his side. And then we raised some debt with a local lender out of the Virgin Islands and closed that transaction. Actually, it was 10 years ago last week. August 13th, actually this week, August 13th, 2013 was the acquisition of Cruise Bay Watersports.
Yep. I'd imagine
a little bit of an adventure since then.
I'd imagine being in the health club industry, you've met a lot of people that, just your network got huge. You found the right people, and that's same to why, we created the Watersport Community Network, because there really isn't a network in our Watersport community. So that way you can meet people, you have opportunities to acquire. But yeah, I just see that as a huge opportunity for you to, reach those people that can help you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of the reason why I wanted to join you guys is I see a lot of similarities in the water sports business that I saw in the health club business years ago. And it is kind of a disparate business with, great operators in different places in the country and the world. And, until what you guys are creating or have created and events like Arrival and that kind of stuff, it's just been kind of localized, everybody for themselves, and kind of businesses, almost successful in spite of themselves that have created in a lot of cases some incredible businesses. But nobody's ever looked at the water sports business going, hey, this is a real industry. And this is, with sophisticated operators, and, we've watched what happens when we can start telling that story to our investors, and the story of, my story, I don't think has to be the exception. I think it could become the rule. And so, joining you guys and trying to tell that story and let people know, that are small businesses, big businesses, just starting out, people that are, captains or crew members or jet ski guides right now sitting on the beach going, hey, what should I do with my life? We have a lot of associates that we work with all the time. And it's unbelievable to see, the kind of look on their face when they realize that this could actually be a career. And not just a summer job type of thing. And we've taken, thousands of people through our training programs over the years. And, we have some amazing people on our team because of that.
Hey guys, we're going to take a quick break to talk about the Watersports Forum, which is now being rebranded as The Port at Arrival.
That's right, Kevin. We're going to be doing our third annual water sport and boat tour operator forum, now called The Port, from October 9th to the 12th. So let's break it down real fast. The first day, October 9th, is the full day event where we're bringing speakers, host panels, do roundtable sessions. If you went to the year previous, you kind of understand the format. The rest of the week, we'll be partnering with the Arrival Conference to bring you supplemental programming in our special VIP room called Captain's Cove.
Listen, I want you guys to hear me loud and clear. If you guys are listening to this show, if you guys have ever come to one of our conferences before and you thought that was great, this is going to be jam-packed with value. Now, I want to tell you one last thing. Somebody, a very smart investor, once told me that you bet on the jockey, not on the pony. So I'm asking you guys to bet on this conference, on Greg and myself, on Doug and Bruce at Arrival, and know that the amount of value that you are going to extract from both of these conferences are going to be an incredible return on that investment.
So let's talk pricing. A one-day ticket for the forum will run $199. This also includes lunch and our after-hours event. If you decide to stay for the Arrival Conference, you can purchase a combo ticket, which gives you a 15% discount on both events. Because the pricing goes up each month leading up to the event, and this commercial doesn't change, please head to the watersportpodcast.com and click on 2023 conference. Again, watersportpodcast.com, click on the 2023 conference link in the menu, and then you can view the current pricing for the combo package and the arrival ticket. You'll also find info on lodging and programming. This year we're going to be having at the Rosen Shingle Creek, which is an awesome resort.
Special guest speakers. We're going to have a lineup that is going to knock your socks off. We're going to be covering everything from assets, finance, marketing, operations. Like, this is the one and done mastermind. And I don't know when we're going to be able to do something this comprehensive again. And I guarantee you, if we do, we'll be bringing the same value in a smaller group for 10 times the amount of money, because it really is that valuable.
Be sure to get your tickets early because we only have 125 seats. Again, watersportpodcast.com, go to 2023 conference, and from there you can purchase your tickets, you can purchase your combo tickets, you can purchase your lodging. Everything you need to know about the conference is on that page. If you have any questions, just reach out to Kevin or myself, go to our Facebook group, hit us up. We'd be happy to answer anything you need, and we'll see you there. Let's get back to the show.
So I want to touch on something you said about the exception and the rule. And I've long wondered if that when it comes to water sports, because of the way that most of us are set up, all right, meaning that we don't own the marinas, we don't own the ground underneath our feet. Most of us are renting. Some of us with month-to-month leases. A lot of guys in Key West have a month-to-month lease. At the top end of that, you have like a year-long lease, and we both know that can be difficult. So, where does a risk profile, right? And some water sports are situations are more riskier than others, but inherently built into most of our business models. And you being in quasi or private equity, or I don't know how you categorize yourself, but that risk profile when evaluating a business to buy, can you expound on that a little bit? Like, what are things that you look for to mitigate that risk profile when acquiring new companies?
Yeah. So, the first thing is those are kind of, there's factors that you can control. There's factors that you can't control. I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people can do a better job at is telling the story of why their business, irrespective of whether it's a 1-year lease or a national park contract or those types of things. You have a wide kind of breadth of agreements and terms and leases and those types of things. But a lot of these businesses are long-time established businesses, right? Or they're in markets where they're, what we said called very, very high barrier to entry. Key West is a very good example, right? So I'll use that as a specific example when we bought Sebago Watersports. And the first thing that you have to realize is, from a larger institutional investment standpoint, whether you're raising capital from a bank or whether you're raising capital from, angel investors, or whether you're raising capital from larger strategic investors, they're, to your point, looking at, what is the risk, right? And the risks are big in the water sports business, but not necessarily than other businesses. It's just that you have a couple different, I would kind of say, headwinds that are facing most small or medium-sized operators in the space. Number one is just the perception, first and foremost, that these businesses are not run in a sophisticated, organized way, right? That it's just, Chris or Greg and, they've been buddies for the last 20 years and decided instead of, doing something else, they're going to, ride jet skis. And there's this sense that this is kind of a transitory business, or that for some reason, the operators, so to speak, are kind of less good in some way. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Some of the smartest people that I know are running water sports companies or invested in them. But telling that story and overcoming the fact that, there is a very, very clear distinction from a kind of professionally run operation and a not professionally run operation. And so the first thing I would say is kind of that perception from the outside is everything, right? If your product and your services and your team members have kind of a reputation or brand theme that is kind of more seat of the pants, or that we haven't thought these things out, people are going to think that way, right? And so we're trying to change that. We're trying to give you, I know you guys are trying to do the same thing, to say, irrespective of all the reasons why we're kind of objectively a good business, subjectively, can I see myself investing in these people? Because most acquisitions surround three things, right? It's the team that's running it, the timing of when it's happening, kind of in the larger macro scale. Is this a business that's on an upswing? Is this a business that's on the downswing? Does it have a good team in place? And then, ultimately, what is the opportunity that I have? How can I grow it? And if you don't have the first things going for you, the last one, which is kind of the opportunity and all these objective reasons of, my boats are worth X, or my lease is worth Y, those are very, very good things, but you're never going to get off first base if they don't think that there's the right team and timing to justify that investment, because most people are looking at that kind of against other asset allocations and making sure that, the last thing most people want to do is buy themselves a job, right? And so you have a lot of these small businesses, not just water sport. It could be restaurants, could be personal training studios, could be health clubs, you name it. A lot of owner founders are saying, hey, I've run this for a long time. I don't want to do it anymore. How much money will you give me for my business? And it's like, okay, well, there's a lot to unpack there, and how's the business going to continue to run, and how can you scale it? With respect to some of the lease mitigants, I think there's pros and cons. I'll give you an example. We're looking at a deal right now where there's a contract involved that is a 10-year contract, and that's fantastic. There's a lot of revenue associated with that contract. It's an opportunity that you can kind of set your watch by. And so on one side of the coin, that's an attractive thing. On the other side, we're looking at another opportunity, which is more similar to Key West. This is a business that's been there for a long time. It's a business that's been operating from a location. It has permits, it has slips, but those permits and those slips could be theoretically taken away at any time, but they haven't been, right? For the last, decade, or from a practical standpoint, you have these businesses that are kind of perpetual, if you would, and then you have these businesses that have defined terms. And you have to ask yourself, from a risk profile, is it better for me, for example, to invest in a company like Sebago Watersports that we bought in Key West a few years ago, that's been doing business for 30 years in Key West, is in the historic marina with all of its slips there in an amazing place. Those slips are, like you said, month-to-month leases when you really dig into it. But it's been here for the last 30 years, and it'll be here for the next 30 years, most likely, as long as you can, kind of continue to do the right thing. Or is it better to look at a business, say, for example, Key West as an example, the Dry Tortugas ferry in Key West, that ferry in Key West is similar to what I was mentioning, that those guys operate on a 10-year contract term with the National Park Service. The risk to that business is, 10 years from now, there's going to be people that are competing to take that business away. So one isn't necessarily better or worse than the other. I think you just have to look at all the factors that go into
how
it.
Many of your businesses actually, I think it's for any of us who's ever been involved in having to move locations, like we've seen a brand here that's spun up. They're actually in your market as well. I've had dealings with them. I'm not going to mention their name, but they in Key West, okay, when I say your market, but so their model has been to basically start their brand from scratch, but with it, they're buying up the property. Mm-hmm. So does that ever like a factor for you guys, or do any of your mm-hmm. businesses have real estate associated with it? And is that, sort of like a really lucrative, or not lucrative, but attractive asset when you guys are looking to acquire businesses?
So the first, no. To the first, we don't currently own, there's no fee simple real estate in our portfolio right now. We do have long-term leases on warehouses and dockage and those types of things in some places. And I would guess that in that particular circumstance, it's probably a barrier to entry issue more so than a preference to own the real estate, is because, if I had to guess, that there is no other leasable space, or if they wanted to penetrate a particular market, they weren't successful in finding a smaller operator to acquire or a long-term lease to negotiate with. So they probably got pigeonholed into buying the real estate. Now, you might also look at people On the other side of our investment firm, when you look at like our real estate trusts that own hospitality assets, you know, I haven't looked at it more specifically, but if there was, for example, an opportunity where we could buy a hotel that had a marina at it, we would probably do that because we're in a circumstance where we have the opportunity and the access to capital. But I wouldn't say that buying real estate is really important at all. To be honest with you, it's about controlling distribution and the point of distribution that you're going to operate from. How certain can you operate from that? Whether it's acquiring a permit or getting one organically. You have places like I was down in Siesta Key yesterday, and there's a very, very, very kind of regulatory environment there of moratoriums on permits and that kind of stuff. Key West's a great example. You look at the golf cart business and that kind of stuff. So I would say that whatever the most kind of economic way is to put yourself in a position where you either have a good history to rely on, where a business is operated from a location for a long period of time, typically like permits and that kind of stuff that run in perpetuity, particularly things that are like government issued. I'm very comfortable with those things because the government generally isn't in the business of taking permits away, right? On the other side, if you're negotiating a lease and that maybe in your neck of the woods, Destin and that kind of stuff, that hey, I want to start a jet ski business or a tour business or whatever it is, then I have the opportunity to make a long-term lease. I would probably do that. Although, depending on how you negotiate those leases and what your personal guarantees are, you have to weigh the risk of, well, what if it doesn't work out from a startup standpoint, right? Well, I don't know if I want to put my name on the hook for these types of things. I think buying the real estate would be my last option because it's really expensive. And in a startup environment, you're probably getting a lot of capital allocation and buying all the other shit that you need to run your business, and buying a building is probably the last thing that you need to spend your money on.
I think that the risk is heavily mitigated when you're buying a company that's been around for 20, 25, 30 years, because those marinas, they don't want to lose you because you bring a lot of ancillary revenue to their business. Not only you're renting slips, but you've kind of branded yourself. Like there's a lot of marinas that if they lose that anchor business, that marina is not as valuable. I mean, to try to find another company to come in there, I think, Kevin, your situation is kind of unique because a lot of the businesses there were only there for a couple of years. But if you were there for 20, 30 years and you are, the size of Sunset Watersports or Boogie, some of these bigger ones, I think that would have been a harder decision for them to make because you bring so much money to that marina for fuel and sundries and all this other stuff. But I think that's, Chris, what you're kind of getting at is that you're not too concerned because the marina needs you just as much as you need them.
Well, not only that, but I think you have to look and really understand your business and what the value is, right? What is the unique selling proposition of your business? Why should I buy you? Every business, it's almost impossible. I mean, my business, right? You look at our hotel contracts. Many hotel contracts can be terminated with 30 days notice if they wanted to, right? You're never going to go to Marriott International and get them to agree to give you a long-term exclusive arrangement at one of their hotels. We happen to service a lot of those hotels, but we're only as good as our last day, right? So that in our business we deal with that, and I think diversification is really important. The more eggs you have in one basket, as far as try to diversify your locations, maybe in a region that's controllable, right? I'm not saying that you should be driving 4 hours every day, but having multiple points of failure is a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because ultimately, if you have all your eggs in one basket and it's a 30-day lease, and that marina's for sale, and the new guy doesn't like you as much as the old guy did, type of thing, like that's a real big problem. But we all have that, and so I would say, ultimately, the most important thing when we're looking at businesses, I think for the most part, when any sophisticated investor is looking at a business, is how much money is it making? How much money could it make? And how long has it made that type of money, right? And then if you can focus on what you can control, which is your brand, your people, your profitability, your marketing activities, the way that you can kind of build that fortress, build those local relationships, build those kind of anchor tenancies and local brand relationships where you become a go-to resource in the market, it's very hard for a new player to displace that. So it's okay if somebody is missing two legs of the stool.
So if I'm an operator or I'm a guy that's like, I got $1 million in my pocket and I want to get into the water sports game. Now I know there's a host and it's a very there's like a myriad of different factors that come into this play. But for example, the one company, I saw two companies actually do this, guys with more than $1 million. And one started a brand from scratch and they dumped. It seems like an unending well of like $50 million, like an insane amount of money. And then, like Key West, you had Fury, they bought a smaller company. So if your goal is to, let's say, reach whatever it is, 10 million, $100 million in revenue, do you buy something that's already there, that shows that it does have some failure points and some meat on the bone? Or do you go like operator B and start your brand from scratch and start trying to strategically, like this guy, buy places up and start from
So my preference is to acquire something, and you don't have to acquire something big. You don't have to spend $1 million. You have to assess what that return is and how you can spend your time. But if you're doing a startup, you have the unknowable risk, which is, am I going to get the business that I think I'm going to get or not? So from peace of mind, particularly if you're raising outside capital, I think buying a business, buying revenue, buying a foundation where you can kind of say, I don't know how much money I'm going to make, but I know, or I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to lose money. The old kind of Buffett adage, right? First rule of investment is don't lose money. I'm a downside risk investor. So I would rather something cost me more in the long run, because every dollar that I lose, I got to make $2 more to make it up, right? Now, that being said, I think it really depends on what your experience is. Greg going in and saying, hey, I got $1 million in my pocket. I've been successful over here, or I have a recipe that I can bring to another market. I know exactly what it is. I have the team members. I have some people with additional bandwidth that can do it. Expansion or organic growth is probably going to cost you about half as much as acquisition will in total dollars. But if you personally have to spend all your time doing that, growing that business, and you don't have people that can kind of do it for you, that you can invest behind, I think you're going to lose more opportunities, because then, you're not going to be able to necessarily focus where you want to be, which is growing and scaling your business, if you're putting fires all day long on a new business that you want to buy. But I don't think you need $1 million. I mean, there's all sorts of opportunities all the time to buy businesses, take over liabilities, different circumstances. I started with a business, we've bought businesses that make almost nothing. And then used our kind of recipes and know-how to make them better. So I wouldn't be afraid of either one, but I would say, if I was going to do a startup, I would not want to be a rookie doing a startup. I would want to be a seasoned veteran like you guys, or somebody like myself, or others that we know that have done it. And particularly around the team members, right? The water sports business, we have it's a tough business to train and recruit quality people in. So you also have to kind of evaluate that. Again, what is your team? And oftentimes through acquisition, you can acquire a really good team, just like what we did in Sebago and Key West. I could have never started a business in Key West for all the reasons that we mentioned, because of all the barriers to entry and all the wait lists on the slips and all that kind of stuff. But, if you would ask me, all things being equal, if I would go and start a business up in Key West, if a new marina was opening up and there wasn't a 30-year wait list in Key West, and all I had to do is buy the boats and the jet skis or whatever it is and go into business, I would do that immediately. But that oftentimes is not an option, because the good locations, the places that you really want to operate from, typically have some walls up that you have to overcome.
So Chris, one thing that's unique about the water sport industry is that our products are mostly commoditized. A boat's a boat, jet skis, a jet ski, boat tour's a boat tour. You go to these destinations, people aren't typing in, the brand name for the most part. They're typing in boat tour in Key West or dolphin cruise in Destin. And I think that it brings some great opportunities from a startup perspective, because you can start up a business, call it whatever. You can build the brand over years, and there's no doubt that having a brand is going to help you out for those generational customers. But, how does that play into your decisions, being that we are such a commoditized industry?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. We struggle with that all the time. We own a lot of brands. We have Red, which is this kind of parent company. What value does Red bring to the underlying, Sebago Watersports? Does Sebago sell more or less tickets because Red owns it or not? I think the answer is no. To be honest with you, I think the brand value has very little kind of long-term value add. The intrinsic or kind of goodwill of a brand, so to speak, in the water sports industry isn't going to get you much. I do think, however, that establishing a brand within your booking partners, right, within your distribution channels of quality and reliability and those types of things, that's really what the brand value is. Not so much, hey, I went with Sebago last year, I'm going to go Sebago again. You could be called anything. If people have a good time right now, it could be, Captain Chris's Watersports, and Sebago Watersports doesn't make a difference to the customer. I would focus more on your product and your communication with your customers, your social media channels, digital advertising. There's so many things that I know you guys talk about a lot, Trip Shock and the other resources that you guys have, telling the story of those experiences. People want a couple things. They want social proof, right? They want to know that the thing that I'm doing is highly rated. If you and I go to dinner in Orlando, and I haven't been to Orlando in 2 years, what am I going to do? I'm going to pull up, whatever Yelp or something like that, and I'm going to probably make a decision based on the amount of stars and the pictures of the food and the menu, right? I don't really care what the name of the restaurant is. So that's where I would focus. And then, from a ongoing brand message, sure, if you start scaling, or as you grow to be, a Fury Watersports in Key West, or a Sebago, or some of these larger local players, they become the de facto kind of market favorite. And that word of mouth oftentimes does more than anything, right? It's the customer that's sitting in the bar in Key West asking the bartender what he or she thinks. And she's like, oh yeah, you should go with Fury Watersports on their Commotion in the Ocean. Not because of anything other than locally they're ubiquitous. And that's something that I would focus on.
And I was going to add, I think that's right. What I was going to say is that brand is more prominent for B2B than it is to B2C, at least in the beginning. How you're looked at in the community, how you're looked at with your OTA partners or your distribution partners, how you're looked at with employees. Like, if someone's looking to get in the water sport industry in your city, who are they going to look? They're going to look at the brand, the popular brands that can give them longevity. So,
Yep.
We talk about brand on the show a lot. Kevin and I do. Building a brand is ultimately what you want to do. It'll reduce your acquisition costs over time, but building a brand for the other reasons, that can help your business out from an acquisition standpoint, employees. That's what else is very important.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We have 3 customer bases at Red, right? We have our B2B customers, which are kind of our local partners. We have our B2C customers, which is exactly what you said. These are our ticket buyers on the boats and those types of things. And then we have the kind of business to enterprise. This is where we're dealing with large hotel partners or group and incentive business and that kind of stuff, the Ritz-Carltons or Marriott Internationals of the world. So you have to decide across those verticals, where are you making money, right? And most of the water sports operators are local businesses. And for all those reasons, I would have a hyper local kind of main street marketing, guerrilla marketing, business and branding structure for those businesses. It's fucking hard. You have to do the work. You have to get out there. You have to build those personal relationships. Cruise Bay Watersports, and if I wasn't the one that was out there building relationships with the general managers of hotels and those types of things, and building that credibility, it's not the brand, it's the person behind it, right? Is Chris reliable? Is Greg reliable? Is he going to do what he says he's going to do for me and my customers, right? That's what that's the backbone and foundation of how Red came to be, because at the end of the day, it's hard to be an entrepreneur. It's not, you can't just wake up in the morning and say, hey, I got some great content. I'm going to throw this up on Instagram. I'm going to get a reservations platform and buy some jet skis, and people are going to come. Look at how cool my fucking paint job is. That's not going to work for you, right? The people buy you, and trying to communicate that passion and develop team members that can be more of you in your local market and build those relationships is most likely what's going to fill the boats. And then from that, you start looking at your content channels and that kind of stuff. But that authentic small business, it's the reason why these businesses are so word of mouth, because our customer base in the water sports, the tours and activity business, broadly speaking, other than some of the large, theme parks and that kind of stuff, these businesses reset themselves every 3 to 7 days, right? You could totally reinvent your brand next week and go from Sebago Watersports to, Key West Watersports, and 80% of the customers would never know that Sebago Watersports ever existed a week ago. But all of your partners will know that, well, Chris's business that used to be Sebago Watersports is now Key West Watersports, and they always did a good job, so I'm going to send my business to whatever Chris calls it. And that's one of the benefits of these small businesses. It's also one of the big drawbacks, because where I've struggled personally over the years is extracting my personal brand from the brand, and from those relationships, to make people believe that it's not just me that's doing it, it's my team that's doing it, and not everybody has to come to Chris for the answer. You've got to develop a team member, a team that can do the work for you and be your brand ambassadors, whether it's people on the boats, people on the jet skis. Tell people all the time, we have trips that are, anywhere from 1 hour to 8 hours. How do you think you could say, if I got my captains and crew members on a catamaran sail going to the British Virgin Islands for 8 hours with 50 people, if those 3 or 4 captains and crew members love their job, love their brand, understand what we do, what our other activities are, and those types of things, they're coming back at 4:00 in the afternoon, after 10 cocktails, best friends, and they will do whatever that crew member recommends. They're going to go to all the restaurants that they told them about. They're going to go to all the bars that they told them about, and they're going to go on all the other trips if they have it. And then they're going to come back and they're going to say, it's not, I went with Sebago Watersports. It's going to be like, oh man, Captain Levi's my guy. I got a guy down in Key West. How many people do you know in your community right now? How many people are we talking to right now are the guy or the girl? And trying to establish and kind of project that brand cachet onto whatever your business is really important.
Chris, do you think that we're entering into a whole new phase in venture capital, private equity, when it comes to the industry? I'm not just talking, the physical businesses, but the technology and the software. And the reason why I asked this, because I look at water sports that Airbnb hosts were 10 years ago. I mean, it was very fragmented. There was tons of different reservation software, a lot of companies starting up, buying 10 properties and starting, these property management companies. Now you're seeing tons of consolidation. You saw Vacasa and HomeAway purchasing other reservation software and other smaller property managers. So, and then you're seeing now, just in the past couple of weeks, we saw Checkfront merge with 3 reservation software. I'm hearing there's a lot more acquisition. It's definitely a whole new phase. We're going from this cottage industry to, a more corporate style. And, is that something that you're feeling too, you're noticing?
Yeah, I think so. I think that is not unique to the water sports business, right? I think that broadly speaking, this is what's happening across the market and the globe, and businesses like water sports companies seem to be trailing behind that curve, not leading it. So by default, I think there is going to be more consolidation in the markets, both from an operator standpoint, but particularly in the software, in the SaaS businesses and some of the service providers that are external to the water sports and tours and activity businesses. I think, knowing you got, Trip Shock and that kind of stuff, I think there's a very different answer to that question if you're a res tech provider or a service provider, solutions provider to a water sports business, than if you are an operator yourself. I think that there will be less consolidations in operators and more consolidations in service and product providers, because there's a different kind of set of investors on both sides of those coins. But I think certainly if you are an operator and you are not embracing technology and reservation technology and seamless booking and ultimately what I call it within our organization is associate optional, right? I want my team members and my reservations team and that kind of stuff to be able to assist our customers with whatever they want. But I don't want them to have to be required to do it, right? It blows my mind. We're in the hotel business. Our larger firm owns 100 hotels. I deal with our asset management team all the time. Constantly surprised. There's still a group of people. I will leave this hotel tomorrow, and I will walk out the door. And there's still a group of people that stand in line to check out of the hotel. I can't. I don't know. I haven't checked out of a hotel in 10 years. But that you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the business that requires people to stand in line to either give you money or get money back from you or whatever it is. Take the barriers down to customers giving you money. Look at Amazon, right? One click. How easy is it to just add another thing to your cart? That's where the water sports business and experiences, largely speaking, are going. And you see a lot of different companies riding this kind of quote unquote experiential train, right? Everybody's talking about experiences and Gen Z and millennial customers, and that's what people are buying. And so you have this kind of macro trend of large institutional investors and strategic venture capital and others that are saying, how do we capitalize on 1 billion people that are going to be coming into the quote unquote experiential travel market over the next 10 years that buy everything on their cell phone? And if you're not, you don't have to be a thought leader in that space. Just be a follower. Just find a good company like TripShock or whatever it is that knows what they're doing and is, kind of on the leading edge of that, and partner with them. And no, putting on my operator hat and saying, how do you make those decisions? It's fine. Those again, you can reinvent your business in the experience space anytime you want. And but if you don't take the first step, you're probably going to get left behind. And I think that it's really important that people focus in on the fact that, if people are still, dealing with vacation ownership companies or OTAs where somebody's calling and leaving a message or there's manual bookings. I mean, we just bought a company in March of 2023 that didn't have a reservation system in place in Hawaii. Blows my mind. Elite Inui Maui Dive Shop. Unbelievable business. This is one of the best companies I've ever seen in the world. And 80% of their reservations were being made manually, in one form or fashion or another. We changed that just in the 90 days since we acquired that business. And what everyone always looks at is like, this is the way we've always done it, right? I don't want to change. That fear of, well, what if it doesn't go well? And, you just got to rely on people like yourselves, others that have done it. And I promise you, it will kind of pay dividends. But, you'd be shocked how many businesses are out there that are still, running their reservation system or their content marketing systems don't have those things, have poor websites, are still running it, on a composition notebook. We looked at a business. I'm not kidding you. No bullshit. We looked at a business in another Caribbean country, a very sophisticated Caribbean country not too long ago, and their entire reservation system was in composition notebooks. And still is right now. If I walked into their business right now, I could walk behind the desk and there would be today's or this month's composition notebook with a date on every page with the reservations for the rest of the month. You have businesses that are still using the knuckle buster, credit card machines.
Yeah, there's a company in South Florida, huge company. They do probably $5 million a year. They got 2 big boats, and on their website they have a PayPal button, and there's a 2-day cutoff for online bookings.
Yeah, blows my mind. And there's a lot to unpack, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys at the events coming up at the Watersports Forum and at Arrival and continuing podcasts, because man, there are a million mistakes that we've made, and there's, for every, 10 failures, we've maybe had one, success story. But, there's definitely some best practices that people can implement and it will pay dividends. And that kind of goes back to one of our comments earlier on in the show about, how to focus on increasing making your business as good as it can be, controlling what you can control, driving profitability, driving.
Well, hey, Chris, I want to do, because we're going to bring Chris back on, because we're right at the end of the show here, guys, and I want to step up into some more higher level questions for you on the next one, but I want to leave our audiences with a cliffhanger, and this is going to be the first question we roll into the second part of this interview, and I want you to think about it, and it's a two-parter, and it's, do you think for 2024, I'll summon my inner Buffett here and ask you, is there going to be trumpets in the air or blood in the streets? And are we looking at a season of roll-ups here? And I want you to think about that, and then we'll go to the second episode, and you can jump in on that one, and we'll get into some more financial stuff and some more actionable stuff that operators can think about as far as growing their bottom line, not necessarily positioning for an exit, but always be in the mindset of positioning for an exit and being as valuable as you can be. So with that, guys, Chris, man, we really appreciate you coming on. Greg, do you want to do a little?
Yeah, just a little quick. So as you might, I think we've said it earlier in the show, but Chris is going to be one of our keynote speakers at the conference. So make sure you go to watersportpodcast.com, hit 2023 conference, get your tickets. There is going to be a smaller discount if you book before, I think, August 31st, but don't quote me on that. Go to the website and check it out. But yeah, we have limited seating. There's only 125 seats for this conference, and you do not want to miss Chris and some of these other keynote speakers that we have. It's going to be a great show, and we got our schedule posted as well. So go to the website, get your tickets, and we'd love to have you come and get to see you. So that's all I got. And Chris, thanks again for coming on the show, and we look forward to the next one.
Thanks, guys. Looking forward to it as well.